Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the IDF resumes its search for a missing soldier. The Palestinian Authority makes another bold claim to UNESCO, and yet another American state takes a stand against the BDS movement. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. Starting today, the Israeli army is renewing its search for the missing Israeli soldier Guy Hever, who vanished without a trace nearly 20 years ago. Several military units are combing the Golan Heights for any new evidence to shed light on Hever's disappearance. The 20-year-old artillery corps sergeant left his post in the area on August 17, 1997, wearing his uniform and armed with a Galil assault rifle. The army has never stopped looking for him and launches nearly annual searches. Last year's attempts included Navy divers hunting for clues in nearby reservoirs. And in 2014, minefields were set on fire to see if any evidence would be revealed. Over the past 2 decades, several claims arose that the missing IDF soldier had been captured and was being held in Syria. Damascus has never responded to any of the diplomatic efforts on Israel's behalf made by the Red Cross, the UN, Russian, and US officials. Hever's mother, Rina, remains active in trying to locate Guy's whereabouts and has never given up hope that her son is still alive. Turning to the 2016 race for the White House, with just 24 hours to Election Day, it's hard to imagine there could be a more charged atmosphere. Republican candidate Donald Trump was furious over allegations his final campaign ad was imbued with anti-Semitic overtones, including similarities with infamous hate speech used to fuel violence against Jews. The 2-minute commercial features Trump speaking about those who control the levers of power in Washington and don't have the U.S.'s interests in mind. As he speaks, images of successful Jewish Americans flash by in the video, including clips of George Soros, a Jewish businessman and philanthropist, Jewish Federal Reserve Chairwoman Janet Yellen, and Lloyd Blankfein, the Jewish CEO of Goldman Sachs. ADL claims that whether or not the images being matched with such rhetoric are intentional, the ad touches on subjects that anti-Semites have used for ages. One Trump advisor is accusing the Anti-Defamation League of partisanship and told the watchdog organization to stop trying to find anti-Semitism where none exists. Regarding the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton, the FBI has just announced that after a final review, no criminal charges will be filed over her handling of email, while serving as Secretary of State. Here in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is cautioning his cabinet ministers against violating Israel's neutrality in this election cycle by any last-minute endorsements of either candidate. He's stressing that ties between the two allies are unbreakable and is voicing his belief that the relationship will become even further strengthened under the next administration, regardless of whomever the American people select as their leader. Joining us now with some more insight into the elections is a former U.S. Democratic Party representative for Israel, Sheldon Shore, and conservative activist May Golan. Thanks so much for coming in, guys.
Hi.
All right, so let's begin with one of the biggest issues today. Hillary Clinton was just exonerated by the FBI again today after 8 days of combing through her newly acquired emails. But Trump is still questioning her trustworthiness. And do you think there's any merit to the accusations that are against Hillary Clinton, or can we trust in these new judgments that have come from the FBI?
Hillary Clinton has been under investigation more than just about any other human being. I mean, she's had the Congress, the Republican Congress, has checked out Benghazi and the emails for over a year and spent a lot of money. In fact, they spent more time on investigating Hillary Clinton than they spent on the JFK assassination, than on 9/11, on Watergate, and she's been, and they couldn't find anything against her. The FBI has checked her out, and they couldn't find it. She was the subject of 8 different investigations. So let's give it a rest already. They're beating a dead horse. There's nothing in it. Let's go on to the issues.
First of all, I have to beg to differ. I don't think Hillary Clinton was exonerated by the FBI. She was exonerated by the Obama administration, which means by Obama. You know, if we're looking on it really, you know, and checking the real details, the American people are not stupid. Okay, they see that just a couple of days before the FBI decides to reopen the investigations, it really isn't possible that they will close it just numerous days before. Something is not right here, and the people know that something, I'm sorry, but really stinks. Okay, so, you know, I've been talking to a lot of people in America lately, Republicans and Democrats, and I've been seeing them feeling very, you know, tricked. People are not capable of seeing so much corruption in one person, so many incidents that are involved in a woman that is running, let's not forget, to be the President of the United States. You cannot have so many black clouds above one person that is supposed to run America. And one more thing, you know, I'm thinking about the media that is sitting, you know, and talking about the fact that, you know, the files against Hillary are now closed. But basically, the same reporters are the ones who didn't want to talk about it for so long. And I, you know, I sit in a lot of studios, and one of the, you know, reporter was sitting next to me and saying, you know, Hillary is no different than other candidates from the Democratic Party before her. No difference in corruption. And I was shocked, because under their minds, it makes it okay that she's not different. But you have to understand that the people of America want change. They want someone who's not involved in the establishment, who's not involved in the corruption of the government, someone that is anti all those things. And I think Donald Trump really represents it.
Sheldon, what is your response to that? Because there have been allegations, you know, against Trump for other reasons. So that black cloud is...
I'm sorry that Ms. Golan takes the same sign as Donald Trump. He says, well, the FBI knows she's guilty, and why they... Come on, she's been investigated by people, the Republican Congress, which is not favorable to Hillary Clinton, and they have not found her guilty. The FBI, I don't think there's any basis of saying.
You have no problem with the fact that she's investigated by the Obama administration.
It's not the Obama administration. This is the FBI.
The FBI works for who? For the administration. The administration is Obama.
Please don't interrupt. But the FBI, please don't interrupt. The FBI head is a Republican. Now, you have no basis of saying that the FBI is corrupt or the FBI has been compromised in any way. Absolutely no. You have no interest in the facts, no interest in truth. All you're interested in is the conclusions. To completely say without any basis at all that she's corrupt. There is no finding of her being corrupt, and I'm tired of hearing this. I'm tired of hearing lies like this.
You're tired of hearing the truth. That's
lies.
the problem.
So let's talk.
Any other nominee that would have even a quarter of what Hillary is being blamed for wouldn't have been able to run. She is corrupted.
Well, let's turn to another topic.
Criminal.
Let's turn to another topic because we don't have that much time, and I want to
I don't like shouting. I would like to control the guest here. If I'm talking,
well, let's talk about the military aid agreement, okay, between the United States and Israel, which has obviously been a major issue in everybody's minds over here, especially Israeli American voters. You know, many say that there could have been a better deal. My question is, do you think Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump would have better relations with Israel and would have been able to close a better deal? What is your guys' response to that question?
Well, I completely believe that Hillary Clinton for Israel will be the worst thing possible. If we're looking at the last 8 years under Obama, I think that there has never been such a low friendship between Israel and the U.S. We're seeing a president that has called our prime minister a liar, that has refused to shake his hand, that has been humiliating him all around the world, has not been backing Israel up whatsoever, has done the Iran deal, which is one of the most horrible deals for the safety of Israel. And unfortunately, if Hillary gets elected, someone who is not supporting Israel from every security-wise, who her staff is known to not like Israel and not support Israel, she will weaken the building in Jerusalem, she will not support the settlements, she will support the Iran deal to continue. May I remind you, 150 billion which is John Kerry said that part of it will go to terror. Just to sum it up,
we're going to get to the Iran nuclear deal, but I want to hear also, Sheldon, what's your response to this?
4 more years from Hillary will be a disaster to Israel.
Okay. I've never heard such nonsense in my life. President Obama has been one of the strongest defenders of the state of Israel, one of the best friends of the state of Israel, and yes, the Iran deal is an excellent deal. And let me back that up. Number one, not only has he given the largest package foreign aid to any country has ever been in the history of the United States, he's given advanced weaponry to Israel, which has not been given by the Bush administration, such as the F-35 plane, cluster bombs. He's backed Israel in the United Nations during the entire period of the Obama presidency, 2 terms. There has not been one single decision against the state of Israel coming out of the Security Council of the United Nations. He is the only president that you can say that to. Military information has been transferred between Israel and the United States on a higher level. There's been joint exercise between Israel and the United States. They have recognized and backed Israel's right to exist and has backed Israel's standing in the world community. And as far as the Iran deal, excuse me, I am talking. Could you please ask her to be quiet?
Let's let Sheldon finish, and then we'll get on to
the Iran deal. Let me just get 2 things. Number one, the Iran deal is not the best deal that we could possibly get. I'm sure that if the Prime Minister had written the Iran deal, he would have gotten better terms, but he would not have agreed to. And it's the question of having the Iran deal or nothing. If we had nothing today, Iran would be finishing having a nuclear weapon,
nonsense.
And I would not. And I'm happier that Iran will be building it in 10 years rather than today.
Yeah. But you know, Iran hasn't stood by this deal in many ways. What is your response to that?
You just have to enforce it. As Prime Minister Netanyahu said, we have enforcement proceedings. It is up to the Western powers and the United States to enforce it. They should
enforce anything on a country that doesn't exist, doesn't even acknowledge the basic right for Israel to exist. We're talking about a leader there that basically calls for the destruction of Israel. Who can possibly make a deal with this country? How can you possibly enforce such things on a country?
What do you want to do, go bomb Iran? Is that your idea?
No, I didn't say bombing Iran. You would like to radicalize things. I'm saying that this kind of deal is basically a shame for the friendship between Israel and America. And I believe Donald Trump, when he gets elected and will be the next president of the U.S., will tear it up. We'll tear it up, and we'll bring the safety to Israel that America has been promising for years to keep on maintaining with Israel.
He cannot.
All right, so guys, let's turn to a different topic completely. May, you're an activist that has been outspokenly against illegal immigration, similar to Trump in the United States, but there are a lot of Jewish Americans who are concerned that some of his policies are very divisive, given the fact that they themselves have, family members that were refugees from World War II or faced persecution in the past. What is your response to those American Jews who are concerned with Trump's approach to that type of policy?
Okay, first of all, it's very important to emphasize that what I've been doing for the last 5 years with my NGO, the Hebrew City nonprofit organization, is basically fighting against illegal immigration, not refugees. We stand behind the true fact that refugees should get an asylum seeker in Israel, should get a status, should be protected. But the thing that I'm really trying to explain is the things that I've been saying for the last 5 years. It's exactly the words that Donald Trump has been saying for the last 6 months. And the fact is that Donald Trump is saying that you should protect your borders. You should protect the safety of your country. You should have the right to defend your country from people that are coming in illegally, not knowing who they are, what they're bringing what are their goal to come to America. I don't think that American Jews or Americans at all should be worried about that, because they should be happy that finally there is a candidate who is willing to close the border like Benjamin Netanyahu actually closed the border a couple of years ago, and who is willing to finally keep the majority of Americans there, like I fight to keep the majority of Jewish people in Israel.
Sheldon, what is your response to that?
Well, when Donald Trump first started his rant against the refugees, against illegal immigration, and everyone is against illegal immigration. He didn't invent that. But when he came out, he said, I'm going to throw them all out the next day after I'm in bed. He stopped that. He realizes that to have families where the children are born in the United States and have a right to be there, to throw the parents out makes no sense. Now, Dwight Eisenhower did something like this. He had an Operation Wetback that was a total disaster. I heard an interview more recently by Donald Trump when they asked him, what laws would you change And now that he's finally read the laws, he realized that everything he said is in the laws. He said he wouldn't change the laws. All he'd do is enforce it more humanely and with more vigor. In other words, we have right now in place the laws to stop that. By the way, I don't know if many people know this, but in the last 5 years, the net immigration from Mexico, Mexicans into the United States, is a minus. More Mexicans have returned to Mexico than have come in. So the idea of building a wall is not going to work. Most of the immigration comes in from Africa and from Asia and from Latin America, not from Mexico.
Right,
so
guys,
his whole plan is nonsense.
We're out of
Just
time,
to say
unfortunately.
that Hillary Clinton, the difference is between Donald Trump, that she will import more illegal infiltrators, and that's the big difference
That's
beside the
nonsense.
wall. That she said that. She said she wants to accept
she
more.
wanted to accept more Syrians than has been in right now, but not terrorists.
That are actually illegal infiltrators. That's what she wants to accept. And Donald Trump not only will build a wall, but he will keep legal people, and this is very important for America.
All right, well, guys, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming in.
Much.
Okay, pleasure. Thank you.
With all of the recent successes at UNESCO, there is now rising concern that the Palestinians will push Israel to relinquish one of the country's most precious national treasures through the United Nations. What's at stake are the oldest manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible, the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Palestinians already filed an informal request at a UNESCO subcommittee charged with pursuing the return of stolen cultural heritage items, demand Jerusalem turn the parchments over to Ramallah. It's feared the Palestinians will soon make their quest official based on claims they own the scrolls, which were discovered on land they want for their future state. Israel's envoy to the UN cultural body, Carmel Shama-HaKohen, is dismissing the initiative as provocative, and yet another attempt by the Palestinians to rewrite history. Jerusalem severed relations with the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization in recent weeks, after the 21-member forum passed 2 resolutions denying Jewish and Christian roots in Jerusalem. The expansion of the Gaza fishing zone has not yet started, even though it was slated to begin on the 1st of this month, and Israel is blaming the Palestinian Authority for the delay. It turns out Ramallah hasn't provided a monitoring boat to make sure the Palestinian fishermen remain within the nautical boundaries, maintain order between the fishermen, and also act as a go-between with the Israelis. The Defense Ministry in Jerusalem says both sides agreed that there was a need for such a vessel during the last fishing season. The area was set to be enlarged from 6 to 9 miles from the Gaza coastline for a 2-month time frame. The plan is aimed at helping to increase revenues and relieve poverty, amid a 40% unemployment rate in the Strip. The Israeli authorities say they're ready to implement the plan as soon as Ramallah complies, but the PA is now labeling the request an unrealistic precondition and says it can't provide the boat. Both Israel and Egypt maintain a security blockade on Gaza to prevent the smuggling of weapons and other contraband materials to its Hamas terrorist rulers, who seized control from the PA in 2007. Last Saturday night, thousands of Israelis from across the country gathered to commemorate the life of former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who was tragically assassinated during a pro-peace rally 21 years ago. The problem for many, though, is that to this day, the motivations for his murder remain unclear. Author and journalist Natan Odenheimer has written extensively about the issue and told ILTV's Steve Leibowitz that the murderer's motivation was not what many think.
I think first and foremost it's important to understand Yigal Amir's motivation and reasoning, because it actually tells us something about transformation and trends that are happening in Israel today. By and large, let me start by saying that a few days ago, Yigal Amir's brother, Haggai Amir, who was convicted for aiding Yigal Amir in the assassination, wrote in his Facebook something that referred to Israel as the Fourth Reich. Basically, what this tells us is that both Amirs, their ideology is not radical right-wing, meaning nationalistic, Zionist in the conventional way that we understand that, but rather real anarchist radicals that what driven them is actually messianic religious beliefs and actually against the state of Israel and against Zionism.
Do you believe that that ideology that you're citing has a following? Are there people who till today are fans of Yigal and Haggai Amir?
Absolutely. This is kind of a sad reality, and I think that if we want to trace the complex reality that pushed Amir to do that, we should go and understand the history that has to do with the Mizrahi-Ashkenazi tension, and also have to do with messianic ideas that are actually rising in Israel. And Yigal Amir has followers, have people that believe that what he did was right, was good for Israel. Not too long ago, officers cadet from the officers school Bad Echad in Israel was kicked out from showing support for Yigal Amir. Recent polls in Ma'ariv and Yediot Achronot from the past 2-3 years show that many Israelis, in the percentages of like 19 to 55%, depending on which sector we're talking about, believe that Yigal Amir wasn't the person who murdered Yitzhak Rabin. This is an interesting point because it shows us something about how Israeli don't believe, Israeli media and institution, about what actually happened in the night of the murder and what happened afterwards. There's almost no topic that disturbs Israeli public as Yigal Amir. For instance, a movie about him, there was a movie about his wife, a documentary movie about his wife that was released about a year ago, was sidelined directly by the order of the Minister of Culture, Miri Regev, who told the Jerusalem Movie Festival that if they screen the movie, she will cut the budget. In 2008, there was supposed to come out an interview with Yigal Amir, exclusive interview with both Channel 10 and Channel 2, and both interviews were also sidelined. At the time, even Ehud Olmert, who was prime minister at the time, told the journalist that he would rather those interviews not to be published. So the question that we should ask ourselves 21 years after is, why is the country so afraid of Yigal Amir and what he has to say?
And how is the country remembering Yitzhak Rabin? I mean, coming back to the prime minister rather than his assassin itself, is his memory staying as strong as it was in the years after the assassination, or is the memory of Rabin and the importance of Rabin beginning to fade?
Well, this is a good question. So, generally speaking, among the what we call left-wing bloc, Yitzhak Rabin was glorified, sanctified. He's considered a saint of sort of the Israeli left. The heritage that allegedly he bestowed on Israeli public after the murder, that is of peace. And there's almost complete disregard to the things that he did before he became a peacemaker, which is actually kind of a turn in his last year as prime minister. When we're talking about right-wing people, we have people who are more mamlachti, what we call like nationalistic, conventional, conservative nationalistic, and they don't necessarily hold Rabin to a high regard. However, they do appreciate him as a prime minister and see that killing him was a horrible crime against the state and against the people of Israel. At the same time, in the fringe of the right, we also see strong support to Yigal Amir and seeing Yitzhak Rabin as a demon of sorts all through his career, not only about his decision to perhaps withdraw from the West Bank and make peace with the Palestinians.
Natan Odenheimer, thank you so much for being with us at ILTV.
Thank you very much.
There's been yet another victory in the battle against the BDS movement because one more U.S. state has just made participating in the anti-Israel hate campaign illegal. ILTV's Aaron Porras has more on the story.
The governor of Pennsylvania just signed a new law that prevents any state entity from doing any kind of business with any companies that boycott, divest, or place sanctions on the Jewish nation. Momentum to outlaw the hate campaign is rising, and similar legislation has already been passed by 12 other states. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf rejected the platform by pro-Palestinian activists, who argue that the movement is a way to force Israel to make concessions. As he inked the bill, Wolf said it must be made clear that his state favors a peaceful, negotiated solution to the conflict and will not encourage economic punishment in its place. The other states which most recently passed anti-boycott laws are California in September, New Jersey in June, and Georgia this past March. The others to already pass bills against doing business with BDS participants include Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Alabama, South Carolina, and Rhode Island. Efforts to sponsor bills in additional American states are underway.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. The winter weather in Israel so far is still pretty sunny and pleasant, but many of you out there might already be experiencing a real drive to hibernate in front of a TV or a computer. That's why today's word is masach, meaning screen. The masachim of today's world are constantly getting better and brighter, and we constantly use them in our daily lives. Whether you're communicating through the masach of your smartphones, working on the masach of your computers, or just enjoying a movie on the masach in your living room, it's easy to see how important the masach has become. Just don't forget that exactly as in English, a masach can be a screen to let you peer out into the world, or it can be a masach that blocks you from it. So once in a while, even in the winter, turn the masach off. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast.
ILTV's weather forecast is sponsored by Adopt a Savta, taking care of Israel's lonely Holocaust survivors.
Tonight should be partly cloudy with a low of 59 or 15 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow we can expect an additional rise in temperatures to a high of 77 degrees or 25 Celsius and some strong winds throughout the day. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.81 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching and see you tonight.